Solve using the quadratic formula. Okay, so what would we have to do for that to occur? Add this 8 back to the other side so that this side is 0. So that'll be 2x squared minus 8x plus 8 equals 0. What is step 2? Okay, what's the A value? The B value? And the C value. Okay, then you're ready to plug them in the quadratic formula. So x equals negative b is the beginning of that formula. Well, if your b is already negative, what's going to happen when you put it in? It's going to turn positive because a negative 8 will be positive 8. Now, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. Okay, that's the formula. I just left blanks for where I'm going to plug in b, a, and c. Okay, what number gets plugged in the b place? Negative 8. What number gets plugged in the a places? And then the c place? 8. Okay, then in the next step, you're just going to start simplifying. It's easiest to first simplify everything up under the radical. So type in negative 8 squared minus 4 times 2 times 8. Exactly how you see it. Parenthesis, negative 8, parenthesis, squared, minus 4, parenthesis 2, parenthesis 8. And what did y'all get? 0. And then over, what is 2 times 2 in the denominator? 4. Okay, so what is the square root of 0? 0. So is it going to make a difference if you do 8 plus 0 or 8 minus 0? So we can basically at this point just ignore all that because it's not going to do anything to the 8 by adding 0 to it or subtracting 0 from it. So the final solution is just 8 over 4, which is 2. Now let's graph it and see why we would have only ended up with one solution. Y equals 2x squared minus 8x plus 8. See how it's still a parabola, but it only hits the x-axis in one place, and that one place is positive 2. That's why there's only one solution. Does that make sense? Okay, does everybody have this copy? Okay, I'm going to erase it, and I'm going to try to factor it. You don't need to write this, you just need to watch. This is just called enrichment. Okay, I'm going to do that method where you multiply and add, and we'll see if it's possible. It might not even be possible. I would have to add to get negative 8, and I would have to multiply to get 16. Is everybody understanding why I did that? Okay, you're adding to get the middle number, and you're multiplying to get 2 times 8. Oh, wait a minute. I can do something else. What could I have done? Right, this 2 can be GCF. You can divide all of them by 2. And then that leaves x squared minus 4x plus 4. But then remember, you do have to leave the 2 on the outside showing that you factored it out. But now I've created for myself a trinomial that I can factor by looking for two numbers that multiply to 4 and add to negative 4. And what are those two numbers? Negative 2 and negative 2. Because negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. Now look, when I set each of these equal to 0, 2 equals 0 makes no sense. X minus 2 equals 0, you would have to add the 2 over, and you would end up with a positive 2. Well, isn't that one going to be the exact same thing? So that's why you ended up with one solution, because once you GCF'd out the 2, you ended up with a perfect square trinomial, which means these match, which means there'll be one answer. So do you see how, even though we're learning quadratic formula, not every one of these has to be solved by quadratic formula. You do whatever method is easiest for you. Okay, now let's turn to the next page. Okay, this is just more quadratic formula practice. Now, the first thing I do when I'm given a problem like this is I look at it and I say, can I factor it? Because normally factoring is the fastest. Are there two numbers that multiply to 3 and add to 5? No. So then I might look at it and say, okay, well, can I complete the square? Well, don't write this down because I'm going to erase it. Right, but are there numbers that will multiply to a 3 and also add to a 5? No, so it can't be factored. So then you might think, well, can I do complete the square? Don't write this down because it's not going to work out. If I'm doing this by complete the square, when I move that 3 to the other side, and then I end up with a -3, but then the next step for complete the square would be to take that b value, divide it by 2, and square it. Well, isn't that going to end up 2.5 squared, which is 6.25? And then I would have to add that 6.25 to both sides, and that's already kind of getting messy, right? So that's why, this should say equals. That's why we have a third option. Like if we don't want to be adding decimals to both sides, we have the third option known as the quadratic formula, which is what we're going to use for this particular problem. So, the first step for solving by the quadratic formula is set it equal to 0. Well, this one's already equal to 0, so step 1 is done. Hold on. Now we need to identify the A, B, and C. For example 1, what is the A? What is the B? And what is the C? Okay, now, we didn't talk about this yesterday, but you know how in the quadratic formula up under the radical is that b squared minus 4ac? That has a special name. Okay, that special name is discriminant. Okay, so every time you're doing the b squared minus 4ac part, you're finding the discriminant, and the discriminant will tell you how many solutions you have. So what do I plug in for the b? What do I plug in for the a? And the c? Go ahead and type that in and tell me what you get. Right. So your discriminant, which is the number you get when you just do b squared minus 4ac, is 13. If your discriminant comes out to be a positive number, that tells you you're going to have two solutions. That tells you on the graph, it's going to cross the x-axis in two different places. Now, what? Now to find those two solutions, you continue with the quadratic formula. X equals negative b, which would be -5, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Well, didn't we just do b squared minus 4ac and get 13? All over 2 times a, well, your a value is 1, so that'll be 2. Yep. We're ready to type it in. You really need to focus. Okay, guess you need to focus. So look, we're ready to type in a fraction. How do I set up a fraction? Alpha y equals and then n over d. Numerator over denominator. In the numerator, I'm going to be typing in the -5 plus the square root of 13. With that, it doesn't matter. But if it makes you feel better, you can. And then all over 2. Well, I can't do it at the same time. So look, the first time I put a plus. Now watch. I'm going to go up to it and highlight it. See how I highlighted it? And I hit enter and it just copies it. And so now all I got to do is go back and cover up that plus with a minus. You just go up until it highlights it. You use the up arrow. And then once it's highlighted, you hit enter and it like copies and pastes at the same time. And so now see how I have -5 plus the square root of 13 over 2 typed in, and I have -5 minus the square root of 13 over 2? And so when I do that, I get my two different answers, -0.7 and -4.3. Okay, now, I'm going to graph this to make sure I'm right. Okay, look, y equals, hold on, let me finish it, x squared plus 5x plus 3. When I graph it, I see a parabola that crosses through the x-axis 2 different times. Doesn't that look like about -0.7? It's very close to -1, but not quite. And this one is a little bit past -4, so that would be the -4.3 one. Those are your solutions. Yes? Because you graphed it right away? How? Oh, yeah. It's just, today I'm talking about discriminant and what it means. Okay, example 2. Okay, number 1. Set the equation equal to 0. So to set this equal to 0, what would I have to do? Add that 8 back to the other side, and it would be 2x squared minus 8x plus 8 equals 0. So now that it's set equal to 0, now I can identify the a, b, and c. Right. I know, but today we're talking about discriminant. Okay, so to find the discriminant, you do the b squared minus 4ac. What goes in the b place? What goes in the a place? In the c? That makes your discriminant what? Type it in. Type it in. -8 squared minus 4 times 2 times 8. Yeah. It's 0, guys. Because look, -8 squared is 64. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. 64 minus 64 is 0. If your discriminant ends up 0, you're going to have how many solutions? One solution. And remember, we saw on the previous page why it ends up one solution, because when you do x equals negative b, that'll be negative 8, so positive 8, plus or minus the square root of 0 all over 2 times 2, which would be 4, that basically doesn't matter, and you just end up with 8 divided by 4 equals 2. And that's why you end up with one solution. Anytime you discriminate 0, that's why you'll end up with one solution, because all of that just cancels. Okay, so far we've learned that when you discriminant, which is everything up under the radical, if it's a positive number, you get 2 solutions. If it's 0, you get one solution. So now let's talk about the third option. Okay, example 3. What do I need to do first? Okay, so I am going to add everything over to the 2x squared. So wouldn't that mean add the x over and add the 1 over? So now what's your a value? What's your b value? And what's your c value? Now I'm going to find the discriminant, b squared minus 4 times a times c. What goes in the b place? A and c. Now type that in and tell me what the discriminant is. Okay? Nope, nope. -7. Because look, isn't 4 times 2 times 1, 8? So you have a 1 minus 8, which is -7. Shh, pay attention. So let's see what's going to happen with a negative discriminant. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which we just found out is -7, all over 2 times 2, which will be 4. Now watch when we type this in. Alpha y equals, n over d, to set up the fraction, we have -1 plus the square root of -7 over 4, and we get an error. Why do you think you're getting an error? But mathematically, why? What's wrong with that equation? You can't take the square root of a negative number. So, when your discriminant is a negative number, there are no solutions. No, there's just no solutions. Now, let's talk about graphically what that means. What do you think that means if we graph it? It doesn't touch the x-axis. Let's see. Y equals, guys, some of you would learn so much more if you would just close your mouth. 2x squared, hold on, 2x squared plus x plus 1. See how when we graph it, this parabola never hits the x-axis at all? That's why there's no solution, because the solutions are where it hits the x-axis. Okay, now let's turn to the next page and practice some of these. They take a while though. Number 1, what's step 1 for quadratic formula? Which is already done. So what's step 2? What's the A? What's the B? And what's the C? Once you do that, let's go ahead and find the discriminant, and then we'll know how many solutions we're going to have. B squared minus 4AC. What goes in the B? What goes in the A? And the C? Go ahead and type that in and tell me what your discriminant is. You need to practice typing it in. Everybody does. Don't scream it out. Just ignore them. They whispered. You can't even hear them. What'd they say then, Carmen? That's not it. But that's not the right answer. 89. So, since our discriminant is a positive number, we're going to have how many solutions? 2. Anytime your discriminant is a positive number, you're going to have 2 solutions. Now, to find those 2 different solutions, you continue with the quadratic formula. If you do a negative b in this case, what are you going to get? A positive 7. Plus or minus the square root of 89, because that's what b squared minus 4ac gave us, all over 4. Because your a value is 2, so if you do 2 times 2, you get 4. Now you're ready to type them in. Okay, do not yell them out. Everybody type in each one, but do not yell it out. Give everybody a chance to do it. Okay, what's your A? What's your B? And what's your C? Negative 140. You got to watch your signs. Then what do you do? Find the discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac. Negative 140. Okay? Now, whenever you type in 1 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 140, what do you get? It's a big number, I'll tell you that. It is a 4-digit.
1,200.
What is it? Which means, Carmi, we're going to have how many solutions? Carmi, 2. Anytime your discriminant is a positive number, you're going to have 2 solutions. Now, to find those 2 solutions, you continue with the quadratic formula. It'll be negative b plus or minus the square root of 1681 all over what? 6. Because your a value is 3, so 2 times the a value is going to be 6. Now, type in both to find out what the 2 solutions are. Do not yell them out. Give everybody time to do it. Okay, when you type in negative 1 plus the square root of 1681 over 6, what'd you get? How do you change it to a decimal? Look, on the calculator. If you go to math, DEC will change it to a decimal. You just go down to number 2, hit enter, and what do you get? What do you get? Positive? I know, y'all got to pay attention. We just talked about how to change it to a decimal. Pay attention. Look, if you have 20 over 3, watch Maggie, which is what they had just said, you would change it to a decimal by going to Math, Decimal, number 2. And then you hit Enter, and it'll change it to 6.7 for you. I know, but she wasn't paying attention, and she said I got 20 over 3. How? What do you get when you do -1 minus the square root of 1681 over 6? -7. What can you do to confirm that you've done it right? You graph it and you make sure it crosses very close to 7 and exactly at -7. Okay, number 3. What do I do first? Right, so then what do I do? A, B, and C. What's your A? What's your B? And what's your C? So then we're ready to find the discriminant. That way we'll know how many answers we have. Because what will happen if you do the discriminant and you get a negative number? You're going to automatically know, don't finish this problem, there's going to be no solutions. So if you don't know how to do the discriminant and understand what it means, you're going to keep working for no reason. Okay, so B squared would be 12 squared. Right. Now, everybody type that in, but give people time before you yell it out. Okay, what did you get? Which means we are going to have how many solutions? 2. So that lets me know that I can continue because there's going to be 2 solutions. X equals -b, which will be -12, plus or minus the square root of 576, all divided by 2 times a, and my a is 1, so that'll just be 2. Now, type each one in, give people time before you yell it out. I'll let you know when you can yell it out, okay? We have this week and next week. Including, yes. 2 more days this week and 5 days next week. Okay, when you first typed in -12 plus the square root of 576, all divided by 2, what'd you get? When you typed it in with a minus, what'd you get? Can anybody tell me what answers like that mean? I could have factored it. There were 2 numbers that would have multiplied to -108 and added to 12. The factors would have been m minus 6 and m plus 18. And then you would have just set them equal to 0, changed their sign, and been done. Because you need to practice quadratic formula regardless. Okay, number 4. What do I do on number 4? Right, so what's the A? What is the B? And the C is 2. So 5 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2. Don't yell it out. I'll let you know when. Yep, that's part of the formula. Okay, what did you get? 1 is correct, which means we're going to have how many solutions? No. Positive number means 2 solutions no matter what number it is. If it's a positive discriminant, it's going to be 2 solutions. So, now I'm ready to do the formula. X equals -b, which will be -5, plus or minus the square root of 1, over 6. So now, guys, you can type it in as is, or you could just go ahead and change that. What's the square root of 1? So if you go ahead and change it to a 1, it might be a little bit easier to type in. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 divided by 6 is what? Negative 4 divided by 6 is negative 0.66, so negative 0.7. And then negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. What's negative 6 over positive 6? Negative 1 though. Okay, let's check it by graphing it. Y equals 3b squared plus 5b plus 2. It crosses at 2 places. I'm going to have to make it bigger to see those 2 places. Okay, doesn't one of them look exactly negative 1 and one of them's before negative 1, so negative 0.7? Doesn't that look right? Okay. Well, it's negative 0.66666, so I rounded it to negative 0.7. Okay, number 5. What do I do first? Okay, so what's the A? What's the B? And what's the C? So B squared minus 4 times the A value times the C value. Okay, what do you get when you type it in? 681, which means we're going to have how many solutions? 2. Y'all, I'm trying to video so people can watch this at home. So x equals negative b, so negative 9, plus or minus the square root of 681, all divided by what? What's no, 2 times the A value. Y'all, 20. Now type in each version. Negative 9 plus that over 20 and negative 9 minus that over 20. What did you get when you did negative 9 plus the square root of 681 over 20? 0.9. And what about negative 9 minus the square root of 681 over 20? Negative 1.8. Okay, your homework is to finish this page only, 6 through 10. If you do not have work shown, you will not get a stamp. Does everybody understand?